Hey everyone, Lance back again, and in typical fashion I am fighting the British weather, so this video might be cut up a little bit. I'm in a rush to film this now because it looks like the heavens are about to open, so just bear with me. So today in this video I'm going to be unveiling the replacement for the Z4 and Toyota Supra. If you want to know where and what happened to them, then check the last video. It's a long one, but I'll go into detail about what's happened to the Z4 and why I got rid of both that and the Supra. So let's just get to it. Without any further ado, here is my new car. So as you can see, it is a Jaguar F-Type R. You can tell it is an F-Type R when you come around the back. You've got the quad exhausts and the R badging on the rear. There's also some slight badging in the interior as well. It's in Italian racing red, otherwise known as Firenze red. And as some F-Type aficionados might be able to tell, it is a pretty well-spec version of the car. It's a 2015 model year, so it's rear-wheel drive, hydraulic steering. You can tell the older F-Types are rear-wheel drive by the vents on the bonnet. So the two in the middle are rear-wheel drive cars, so V6, V6S, V8S and V8R. And then the all-wheel drive version of the cars from 2016 onwards had vents down the side. So yeah, 2014 reg, 2015 model year. So what I'll do is I'll just take you back to front, tell you a bit about the car, go through some of the options, and then have a look under the hood, and then I'll splice in some video of me taking it for a drive and my thoughts about the car driving it. So it's got the adaptive headlamps. It's also got the 20-inch Storm alloys, I believe. These were one of the more expensive options. You could also get a diamond cut version where the center bit of this tri-detail here was diamond cut, but these are in anthracite. And behind them, this particular wheel option was one of the options for the carbon ceramic brakes. You only had a couple of options for wheels. So yeah, it's got carbon ceramics and they are massive. Quote from Jaguar on them: replace the front end pads, £10,000, and the rears, £9,000. Insane money. They've been done relatively recently, so hopefully they never have to be done again. Some details on this particular car. It's done 31,000 miles. I put about 1,000 miles on it. So again, continuing down the back, it's got the smart entry. So if we close the car, close the handles, that will lock the car. Power folding mirrors, an option, believe it or not, on these cars. Have the key about your person, press this button here. Car is unlocked. If the car has like a gloss black roof, then I don't know if you can see that there, but you'll see it in the interior in a second. It has the panoramic roof. If it's body coloured, it doesn't have the panoramic roof. It's got the heated and cooled windows. You can tell by the lines in the side windows. It's also got power assisted tailgate. So it's one of these weird things, like it's not an option necessarily I would spec on cars, but once you have it, it's very hard to live without it. Tailgate, boot, whatever you want to say. Let's go on the inside. In fact, last thing outside, the R's all came with this like side skirt detail here, just to bring the front and back together. 2016 onwards, it became an entire body coloured body kit. This particular car as well, actually, the only option it didn't have, as far as I'm aware, is the black pack. So the power vents here at the side were chrome. The detailing around the windows was chrome. And if you jump over to the front bumper, the surround here, all the way around there, was chrome. So I've got all that blacked out. These are brand new power vents, installed them myself, and the mirror caps as well. Just ties the car together. So quickly on the interior, whilst we've still got daylight. So it has the sport seats, multi-way adjustment. It has the Meridian surround. I mean, it's a good system. It's the best you can get on these. It even has the illuminated tread plates. Not necessarily an option I'd pay for, but hey ho, there it is. Flat bottom steering wheel, heated. Seats heated. Believe it or not, like Porsche, they're an extra. You'd think on a car that probably cost north of like £90,000 when it was new, you'd have heated seats. But no, they were an option. Dual zone climate. It has configurable dynamics, which I believe was standard on the R, but it was an option on the V6 and the V6S at the time. It has the leather interior, so it's the leather seats, got leather dashboard, and somebody paid extra for the roof lining as well. And in pre-2016 models, the V6S, V8S and the V8R all had the bronze accents. So let's take a quick look under the bonnet. So to open the bonnet, it's just the latch and the passenger footwell. And what you want to do with these is open it from the middle. And there you have the 5-litre supercharged V8, 550 horsepower, or about 500 pound-feet of torque, which is, I think it's around about 700 newton meters if I remember right. The engine is very similar to that in the V6. There's some differences, but for the most part, the V6 is the V8 with 2 cylinders chopped off. There's a little bit more engineering that goes into it than just chopping off 2 cylinders, but they're a very similar engine. And in terms of reliability and stuff like that, having owned both, very similar. Oddly enough, MPG is very similar as well between the two. So if you're worried about going to a V8 and just peeing through fuel, that's not necessarily the case. And you've got to say, that is cool. A bonnet like that. Does your bonnet do that? Yeah, pretty sweet. To close these, you just, from the front center, it's down like that. Before we start her up, what do people think? Initial thoughts? So apart from the dechroming, the other thing I've had done whilst we're here is tints. So the rear windows, 100% tint essentially. So here I am behind the driver's seat. Nice and comfy. And what I'll do is I will press the start button with the key in the car. The red accents in the cluster denote it's already in dynamic mode, which is you get to by toggling this down here, down to the flag. So that means the exhaust is open, and what we'll do, before the brake, press start. I'll just remove my mic so you can hear that. Tell me that V8 does not sound awesome. So setting off in the F-Type R, continuing on from what we were just talking about, let's just touch upon the exhaust. As most people know, the F-Type can be optioned with an active exhaust. It was standard on the V8s, but on the V6s, and I believe the 2 litres, you had to option it. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually initiate the pops and bangs yourselves and not just on the overrun. So what you can do is in standard, the valves are closed. Then when you switch it to active, they will open up at 3,000 revs. They'll get poppy and bangy as soon as you put it in dynamic mode. But then if you put it into sport shift, so you nudge the gear lever over to the sport mode and you initiate the shifts yourself manually, you can take it to above 3,000 RPM, let off, let it pop and bang, and then you can tap on the accelerator repeatedly for more pops and bangs. So I will try and demonstrate now. So I'll take it down to 3rd gear. Take it. Let up. I'm sure you can hear that. So again, 3K, 4K. Tap. Yeah, it's a lot of pops and bangs. Progressively throughout the years, one due to legislation, but Jaguar would issue software updates, and people say, I've not experienced it myself with the 2 F-Types I've had, but they say come like 2016, 2017, they progressively get slightly quieter. Still loud exhausts, but the pops and bangs are harder to initiate, so on and so forth. So when I came shopping for a new F-Type, I love the aggressive exhaust. So I was like, I want a pre-2015. My last VAR all-wheel drive convertible was a 6.5 reg, and it was a 2016 model year version, and that was still insanely loud. This is the 2015 model year version, and it sounds very similar. The convertible was obviously more theatrical because you could have the roof down, but this sounds just as loud. Downshift, downshift, boot. Yeah, and this car definitely, it has the best sounding exhaust under 100 grand easy. Show me another standard exhaust that does that. I think the only comparison is possibly the Mercedes AMG C63. Anything else under 100k. Around town and in normal traffic, the F-Type is pretty comfortable no matter which mode you have it in all honesty. It's not as comfortable or as soft riding as, say, the Supra, but it does beat out the Z4M coupe. Maybe that is a bit unfair considering the age of the Z4M suspension, but this is more compliant. This does feel a step up over the Supra in terms of like its materials. These do feel higher quality. That said, this is now getting on towards 8 years old, and there is a few squeaks and rattles. Maybe you can hear a couple of them through the microphone, but yeah, you see there's one coming from behind the dash somewhere. So yeah, I need to suss them out and get to the bottom of them. But other than that, in here it feels plush enough. It's got, even though it's like I say, an 8-year-old car, it's still got all the amenities you would typically need. It has heated seats, heated steering wheel, both which were an option. These are the multi-way sports seats, so these were the best seats you could get at the time. This has the leather dashboard and the leather headlining. It has blind spot monitoring, the visibility pack. It has the panoramic roof, as I showed earlier, the flat bottom steering wheel, dual zone climate control. Yeah, so it pretty much has every option. Oh, and the configurable dynamics that I mentioned, that's an option as well. So yeah, it's pretty much max specification for all intents and purposes. Control wise, compared to the Supra, it does feel like a little bit of a boat. The Supra felt way more nimble. This feels quicker, definitely in a straight line. To be fair, without driving them back to back, you probably wouldn't notice much of a difference. It does feel a bit heavier. It still feels sharp, still controls insanely well. Obviously, I've not taken it on track and done any silly stuff with it, but out and about, giving it a bit of a boot around back roads and stuff like that, it feels pretty poised. But in terms of day-to-day driving, like what I'm doing now, I think I would much prefer to be in this than I would both the Z4 and the Supra. and the other sports cars that I've owned, and that's why I have came back to the F-Type, because it just feels comfortable. It's that big, yeah, it's a heavy Grand Tourer, but when you put your foot down, it shifts, and when you want it to be angry and aggressive, it can do that and then some. So I originally went out for a convertible, and the first one that caught my eye was a V6S convertible. I went to view it, really liked the car actually, and it was almost a done deal, but we just couldn't settle on the trading value for the Z4M. I knew it was worth more, the guy was just lowballing me, so I ended up walking away. Then oddly enough, BMW got in touch, the local BMW, with an F-Type, this F-Type that they had in stock. So I went down, they offered me a brilliant trading value for the Z4M considering its mileage. In fact, they offered me 2.5 grand more than I paid for it. Yeah, I put some money into the vehicle and enjoyed it for 8 months. But I essentially got out of that vehicle and it was like having owned the Z4M for 8 months and just paying insurance essentially. Yeah, oddly enough, the local BMW dealer had a V8R F-Type coupe, which was fully optioned in one of the colours I was after. The price was pretty keen as well. It was probably a bit more than I was aiming to spend at the time, about 5 grand more than I was aiming to spend, but with the good trading on the Z4M, it was a bit more palatable. So yeah, once I picked the car up in anticipation, I ordered the black power vents for the front wings. I installed them myself. It was a relatively easy job. And then I booked it in at Ultimate Customs in Warrington to get the car de-chromed. And the rest is pretty much history. I don't intend to do much with this car. I might do some of the service items myself, but in terms of modifications, this is pretty much it. Apart from maybe some black badges for the rear, as the F-Types of this generation only came with chrome. The new generation ones can be optioned with black badges, so I might go to Jaguar, buy the official badges, and then put them on myself. Everything else, it's got really nice wheels as they are. They're in a colour I enjoy. When the tyres are due, I'll probably swap them out for something different. The brakes I am not going to touch because they are a very expensive option. Carbon ceramics, as long as they last, I'm happy with that. Maybe in like 6 to 8 months, I might get a bit of a tune on it. Not sure. We'll see how I feel. It's not as if the car is lacking power. Saying that, I'm a bit eclectic when it comes to my cars, so if I see something that tickles my fancy and that means I need to get out of this to get it, you know, that might be the case. You know, after having 2 F-Types in the past and wanting to come back to one after experiencing another 2 cars, I want to stay in this a bit longer than I probably typically would. On average, I probably rotate my cars once every year. I might keep this a bit longer, unless the prices of SVRs come down to a point where they're palatable for me, or I get a pay rise or something like that, I'll come into a chunk of change. I might swap this in for something like that. I'll be sure though, when it comes to inevitably swap this car, I'll be sure to get some advice from the internet as to what to look for next. There's a couple of cars that I've always got in my head that I would love to own one day. AMG GTS, a Lamborghini Huracan, that would be really cool. It's possibly my dream car at the moment. And obviously an SVR F-Type would be pretty sweet, but we'll see. But yeah, that's it for this video. It's the unveiling of the F-Type. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. What do you think of the F-Type? Tell me in the comments down below. If you've got any suggestions as to what convertible I should be getting, the question I was asking in my last video, maybe go and watch that, or, you know, give me some advice as to what car to look out for. I've already went to view some. I think I've got what I want in my head, but I'm not 100% set yet. So any advice on cars that might fit that bill, give me a shout. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. A thumbs up would be great. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.